So you mentioned being an oboe player going into college. How did an oboe player become involved as a jazz educator?
Well, it's funny. Um, when I had the privilege of being asked to conduct the Florida All-State Middle School Jazz Band last year, and I wrote a salsa tune that I dedicated to my daughter to play as the closer. And but after the first tune, which was Four Brothers, it was an arrangement of Four Brothers. The kids just they nailed that tune. It sounded fantastic. They were tight. It was wonderful. The audience was really thrilled. They were clapping, screaming, whatever it was. And then it's quiet, and I got into the mic, and I decided to poke fun at myself. And everything was quiet. I looked into the mic, and I said, you know, I don't know how all this jazz stuff started. I'm an oboe player. The audience just started cracking up. And I think it's a good example of the fact that you're not limited in life to the things that you might have started by a certain age. All through middle school, I played oboe, but I also played piano just because of lessons. So I was in my middle school jazz band and was very interested in jazz. And ironically, and I think this is how I really got started in that vein, is my best friends were all trumpet players, and they were really into Maynard Ferguson. So they had all the Maynard Ferguson albums, and we were trading back and forth. And I wanted to, I guess, I didn't do it on purpose. I mean, as far as I want to catch up with them, but I was like, I really like this stuff, but I have an oboe. So I used to sit on my bed in my bedroom and crank out these Maynard Ferguson albums and just start playing by ear, along with anything I would hear from the band. And I don't know how many tunes I transcribed on the oboe, but that's basically, I think by osmosis, you pick up a lot. And so then, kind of hacking my way through piano in college and stuff. And as the years unravel, you develop, I think, the confidence to try new things. So now I think I've developed another kind of person where I'm not afraid to try something that I don't know how to do, or that I don't have too much experience in doing, and just try it. And I think it's a process. I think life is a beautiful process of learning, of growing. You're never too old to learn something new. And as long as you can keep trying new things, it really doesn't get old. So it's interesting that I think oboe has helped me become better at rehearsing a big band. Mm-hmm. And I do think, and it's with all humility, because obviously it's all relative. There are a million people that are better than you at doing something. But I feel like teaching big band is something where I'm very comfortable in doing, and rehearsing a big band, because I feel like the oboe and the demands of oboe performance have helped me be more in tune with the nuance of some of the inner lines. It's like sometimes, you're rehearsing a jazz band or whatever, and you're focusing on the groove. You're focusing on the groove, but a lot of the groove is in the nuance of the lines. And so as an oboist, you're trained to really zoom in on infinite detail. And I think that's what kind of helps me focus on the nuance all throughout the jazz band, not just in the lines, in the way that they're articulated, in the way that the lines are spoken, which is a big part of the groove, but also in the groove of the rhythm section, the nuance in the rhythm section. For example, when I'm rehearsing a rhythm section, I catch myself singing, can you try to set it up this way? Or try to set it up something like this? Or maybe add this on the bass, or add a little triplet here, or put a little more weight on this one note. I catch myself requesting a lot of nuance from the rhythm section. And I've caught myself adding a lot of nuance when I'm writing as well, and I'm preparing like the demo MP3s. Rather than just a straight groove, I like adding nuance everywhere. And I wonder if oboe performance is what helped me to kind of develop that attention to detail.
That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. What an interesting story, because I believe any instrument can lead a musician in a direction. And the fact that was yours is, as I said, very unusual, but also interesting. Michele.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. If I may, one thing that I wanted to share is that it doesn't matter what instrument you play, you can teach any genre of music. I've had people call me up and say, well, I'm a bassoonist, I don't know how to teach a jazz band. I said, yeah, you do. Yes, you can. Just, you know, and basically don't limit yourself. And this is just a comment to educators. We should try to not limit ourselves to, you know, well, I'm in this genre, I'm not, you know, I'm not proficient at it. If you feel you're not proficient at it, do a lot of listening, look for resources, look for help. You can turn yourself into a wonderful educator in that genre that before you thought you didn't know how to do. All you need to do is just have the interest and the drive, and it will happen.
I agree with you totally. Well, let's dig a little deeper into your teaching. I've observed your classes throughout the years, and I want to ask you to share one of the most important ingredients that I've found in your teaching, and that's creating and working with passion for the music.
You know, interestingly, as I've progressed as a teacher, I think, or as I've grown as a teacher, especially with the experience of and not to belabor on this, but the experience of having lost a child turned me around as a teacher. Not turned me around, but I think it made me realize that my real passion back then wasn't as much for the music, it was making the music with the kids. And I thought it was passion for music, but passion for making the music with the kids, I think now I realize, because when I came back to teaching after that experience, I started focusing more, or started being more aware on how to make the kids feel welcome, how to make them feel like they were part of a family, how to make them feel like they were accepted, how to make them feel like they were connected to each other. And that's what was happening back then, but I didn't realize it. Back then, I wanted the band to sound incredible. But at the same time, I realized now looking back that I was getting an incredible thrill out of watching the kids looking at each other and smiling when it sounded really good. And where they would help each other during rehearsal, where they would help each other during personal crises for each other, and also the good of the ensemble, where there was just so much camaraderie back then. And a lot of my kids, because I worked in a very disadvantaged area, a lot of my kids had some pretty difficult stories, and they were going through some very difficult times. And the band is what cemented everybody together. So now whenever I do clinics, one of the big things, one of the first things that I do when I do a clinic is I ask the kids to turn around and say hello to each other and ask each other questions. Ask the person next to you a few questions. Ask the person behind you a few questions. All of a sudden, instead of doing an all county and you never got to talk to anybody, you know, and I asked the kids to high five each other before rehearsal. After rehearsal, I asked them to high five each other and congratulate each other. I tell them, you guys, you're never going to be all together in the same room again. This is it. This particular group of kids, this is the only time you're ever going to be together. So and I always tell them, you guys are going to make an entire auditorium packed with people very happy that night because of that instrument you're holding in your hand. It's not a hunk of metal. It's not a piece of wood. It's something that makes people happy because of you and because of the person next to you. So that whole connectivity between the kids was happening back then, but I didn't realize it. So I think as far as passion, there was an innate passion that I didn't realize on connecting with all of them. And the music was secondary, even though it's primary. Once you grab a kid's heart and their soul, not to sound cliche, you've got the rest of them, and they'll everything else will fall into place. I think if we focus more on making the kids happy when they're making music together, rather than this had better sound, you know, awesome, or I'm gonna, whatever, you know, it's just a different mindset. You end up having a better product afterwards. So yeah, that passion was there to the point where, I mean, those, you know, some of those kids, you know, they're they still keep in contact with you. They still come over. They bring you their kids, you know, when their kids are born. They're with you during rough times in your life 20 years after they graduate. And I think passion with teaching should come more on connecting with the kids and making them feel happy. And everything else will be even better than it was if you were just focusing on trying to make the music sound awesome. That's my philosophy on that now.
What a great lesson for all of us.